Welcome back. Another 2's review. This time after a win, Atlanta United 2 goes on the road to Oklahoma and defeats the OKC Energy 1-0. Jason Longshore and John Nelson with you. And John, we'll get to see these guys in 2 weeks from Wednesday. They have one more trip to Oklahoma before we see them, but a good result, and I thought a really good performance last night.
Yeah, and considering that you had a mix of first-teamers who were asked by head coach Gabriel Heinze whether or not you wanted to go to Oklahoma City, when you have a roster that is a mix of 2's players that you're used to having as a part of your normal game day and game state, and you add those first-teamers that come in, obviously it's a challenge for Tony Annan and for the coaching staff to figure out integration and things like that, but when you look at the starting 11 and you see a lot of names that you would normally associate with Atlanta United's first team, I thought it was going to be an interesting match for Oklahoma City and the Energy. It was a chance for them to rebound after losing to FC Tulsa in the Black and Gold Derby. And I know that when folks go to Taft Stadium in Oklahoma City, the first thing that usually folks will say is that it's a smaller surface. And it's something that the Energy you try to use to their advantage when they have home matches. But it was a stern test for them, and it was a good night for Atlanta United too.
Yeah, the lineup was a little different than week one for Atlanta United 2. It was Rocco Rios Novo in goal, his USL Championship debut. Backline started with Mikey Ambrose, Alex DeJohn, George Campbell, and Ronald Hernandez. 4 MLS-signed players. Midfield included 2, Mateo Sosetu and Tyler Wolff, alongside Chris Allen. Up front, Bradley Camden-Feo and Aiden McFadden showed their versatility after playing in the back in Week 1. They're up front in Week 2 alongside Philip Goodrum. Now, at halftime, there were changes with Brendan Lamb, Coleman Gannon, and Will Riley checking in for Hernandez, Wolff, and Hosetu. Assuming that was by design and that was planned coming into the match. It paid off with a really good first half. No goals for Atlanta United 2, but 68% of the ball. They outshot OKC 7-3. Each team had one shot on target, but the 2's passed at 87% versus OKC's 67%. Won 39 duels. OKC had 24. Strong first half, even without the goal to show for it. What did you see in the first 45?
When you look at OKC, you're drawn naturally to folks like Connor Donovan, Hiroki Kiramoto, Robert Coronado, and those will be names that as we continue to look at the USL Championship, and especially here in the division this year, since the division is shared with the OKC Energy, you understand that they're a part of that offense, that they're trying to assert their will on that short pitch. You know, you mentioned Bradley Camden-Feo, who came out and did really well in that first 45. One of the things that stuck out to me was just the consistent pressure that we saw with Atlanta United too, and it's something that we watch with Atlanta United. And you could tell that OKC was trying to figure out how to handle it, and it was a very, very tough thing for them. There was the chance in the 35th for Atlanta United 2 where Camden-Feo centered into Philip Goodrum. Robert Coronado gets a boot in the way at the very end to clear it so it doesn't end up on net. You have another chance a couple of minutes later. And then one of the guys that you have always said that you were looking forward to seeing when he became a part of Atlanta United 2, Angus McFadden. McFadden from Goodrum in the 42nd minute, and it took a challenge from the keeper for OKC to keep that from going in the net. So in the first 45 for Atlanta United 2, the things for me that stuck out, obviously, the pressure that we're used to seeing, and then the chances that they were creating offensively, that just they weren't getting into the back of the net, and we were goalless at the break.
11 crosses in the first half for Atlanta United 2. That chance for Goodrum looked like it was going to be the opening goal, but Coronado with the clearance at the last minute. McFadden and Camden-Feo playing up high, being defenders last week. Now, McFadden has played up high in a team on the wing a lot in his career. Bradley Camden-Feo a little bit, but not consistently. that helps you, I think, with being disruptive and making it difficult for OKC to get going. Now, they had a better second half, and you could say maybe the goal for Philip Goodrum comes against the run of play because it was the only shot for the 2's in the second half. OKC had 10, but only 2 on target. It felt like OKC typically was dangerous off of set pieces. Rocco Rios Novo had to make a save pretty early in the second half. But the goal itself for Atlanta United 2, it's a really good sequence overall with Coleman Gannon, who had come on at halftime, battling inside the 18. He doesn't win it, but he doesn't allow OKC to clear easily. Brendan Lamb, who also came on at halftime, goes up, wins a header, doesn't just win the header, but he places the header with a perfectly placed header right to the feet of Will Riley, who also came on at halftime. And Will Riley took a touch, slipped in a pass to Philip Goodrum, and it was a perfectly weighted pass because Goodrum is then able to get his head up, draw C.J. Cochran, the goalkeeper, to him, slip it by him, get that opening goal. It was a well-worked goal by a number of academy players plus Philip Goodrum, who is healthy up until when he gets hurt late in the game. After such a crazy preseason for him, he talked to us on the preview show, and he was battling injury, was just starting to feel right. He gets the goal, and then he gets hurt late. What else stood out to you in the second half?
Well, yeah, you mentioned the first probably 10 to 12 minutes in the second half where Oklahoma City they dialed up their pressure, and you had the early challenge with Rocco Rios Novo, and for OKC it was Jonathan Brown, and it was the early challenge there. You had that set piece that you were talking about where and I talked about Robert Coronado. Coronado really had a good sense of touch and delivery when it came to the set pieces. It was the one involving Connor Donovan, that first one that you talked about in the 48th. Then there was another opportunity, and this time it was someone else. It was Viljan Bijev, and Bijev had a back heel when he seemed like he was out of ideas in real estate. And the only thing that he thought he could do was commit a back heel. It was deflected by the 2's player that was marking him. It ended up with a corner. You end up with another set piece with Aiden Daniels. So you had that pressure from Oklahoma City in the first 10 to 12 minutes. And to your point on the goal, I mean, it was a 3-on-2 situation, and Coleman Gannon had to chase the ball down into the near corner down to our right as you're watching the match. And it's a great presence of mind by Brendan Lamb to not give up on the play after it was trying to head back the other way, but perfectly weighted. That was the adjective that I was going to use when it came to the pass by Will Riley. And Tony Annan, after the match was on the goal, he says that Phil worked his tail off tonight, really did. Pressing, trying to hurry their defense, did a great job for him to get a goal when he'd been off for so long with his injury. I think it is a big confidence boost for him. He was also thrilled with Will Riley, what he did before to make the goal special. So Tony Annan, really happy, really good goal. Happy that Phil gets off the mark early in the season. So that was what Tony thought after the match about that goal. Nice piece there for a minute and a half, sticking with it, creating the offensive chance, and getting the goal on the board for Atlanta United too.
Yeah, it was Goodrum's first goal of the year, his third in the USL Championship. Riley's first pro assist. Rocco Rios Novo recorded his first clean sheet in the USL Championship play. And he's had a couple of those already with the first team in CONCACAF Champions League. So, players who stood out, I think when you dig into the numbers a little bit, and we'll go from SOFA score to start. George Gamble received an 8.0, which is not easy to do for a center back who doesn't score a goal. And when you dig into the numbers, I think you see why. 87% passing, and that's going to be an element of center back play that you have to be strong at to play for Atlanta United. 11 of 13 on the duels, which is a pretty obscene number. 3 tackles, a blocked shot, 5 clearances. He did have a shot on goal, and I thought that was a really nice sequence where he won the ball at midfield and continued on and had the confidence to take a long-range shot, put it on goal, force a save. It's right at the goalkeeper, so it's not a difficult save. But still, to have that confidence, first game we've seen him in 2021 in USL Championship, And he was paired with Alex DeJohn, who led the team in touches with 100. He was 84% passing. When you dig into the deeper numbers on him, he was 10 of 12 on the duels, 7 of 9 in the air. Campbell was 5 of 6 in the air. So the two of them dealing with the direct vertical play from OKC, they won their individual battles. The center backs, both MLS players, George Campbell and Alex DeJohn, were the two highest rated players on a night where OKC threw everything at them in the second half, and you still got the clean sheet.
You know, you had the chance for OKC in the 83rd by Donovan where he hit the crossbar. And then you had 4 straight corners. And I think that you have to give the defense for Atlanta United, too, in that last 10-plus minutes, a lot of credit for sticking with it because, as you said, OKC was throwing everything they could at it. You know, there were a couple of other numbers that stuck out to me. And then you look at Mikey Ambrose's night, 90 minutes. He had 62 total passes, 85.5% passing accuracy on 85 touches. And then, you know, this is something that, you know, you look at also. One of the numbers that stands out, even though he only played 45 minutes, Mateus Husetu, 98% passing accuracy on 47 total passes. And so those were just another couple of the numbers that stood out for me as well from another couple of guys for Atlanta United. But seeing what we saw from Alex DeJohn, George Campbell there at the back, it was definitely indicators for what OKC was having to go up against.
Yeah, Mikey Ambrose, 85% passing, 8 of 12 on the duels. Husetu only had one misplaced pass, 46 of 47 in his 45 minutes, looked very sharp. Rocco Rios Novo, and this is a little bit of the difference with what you get with Rios Novo in goal, 46 of 54 passing. That's heavy involvement in build-up. And 7 of 14 on long balls. So 54 total passes, 14 were long. That's a large number of shorter passes. And he's just very comfortable. And you could tell that Campbell and DeJohn were also very comfortable using him in those moments. Chris Allen, I think a player who's kind of flown under the radar a little bit. Very good night from Chris Allen. 84% passing in the middle of the park. He won 4 tackles, 3 clearances. Another good, solid performance from him. And he could be a player to keep an eye on as he continues to get more time and to develop. The academy guys who came in at halftime, Lamb, 17 of 21 passing. Will Riley, 13 of 18. He had the assist. He was 5 of 6 on his duels. Coleman Gannon, we know what he brings in terms of that swagger and kind of changing things. Didn't have a ton of the ball, but was 3 of 6 on his duels. The academy kids who came in at halftime, what did you think of their performances in the second half?
Well, and I thought that when they came in, obviously it's a very tough spot. And, you know, you're coming in after our first 45 minutes, you're having to come in for Hernandez, Husetu, and Wolf, and you're supposed to instantly integrate. I think they grew into the game very, very well. And, you know, what we've seen from the academy guys last year with Atlanta United too, that this is that first step in that second season with the 2's, and where do they continue to grow this season. But I think that in a very tough spot, once again, from the larger picture where you have the first teamers coming down to be a part of a second team match, then you have the academy guys who are there and they're having to come in after 45 minutes and instantly integrate as well. I think that it bodes well, and I think it speaks well of how they're continuing to evolve when they can step into a situation like this. And, you know, when you see what Will Riley and Coleman Gannon can do and Brendan Lamb as well, I think it speaks well for how their games are continuing to grow and mature.
Solid 45 from Ronald Hernandez, couple of tackles, had 3 clearances. Good to see him get some minutes as well. Some late subs. Alexander Garuba appeared again. Had one good run late in the match right after he checked in. Josh Bauer came in at the very, very end. Atlanta United 2 had to deal with a veteran team. They're going to see them again in a couple of weeks. What do you think has to improve for the 2's next time they see the Energy?
See, and for me, you know, I was looking at the numbers that I saw from Oklahoma City, and I think that it just comes with playing matches, because it looked like at the 70-minute mark they seemed to fatigue. But once again, when it's your first time out there, that you're on the road and you're doing what you're doing after the match in Louisville, then you have to go to Oklahoma City. For me, I'm just looking for evolution, just to continue to see what we're seeing and improve. For me, I'm trying to figure out what to improve upon, because you're looking at the guys coming down from the first team, and it's all about integration for me. I want to look at who's going to be there that next time in 2 weeks. But once again, you've got 2 weeks to sit there and work against Oklahoma City. It's probably coming out in that first 10 to 12 minutes in the second half, and not having the team that you're playing impose their will against you. So I think that first stretch of the second half will be a good learning lesson for everybody as to, okay, here's how we had to change things up. I know this, but then Oklahoma City dials up the pressure. It's how you handle that pressure coming out from the intermission for me. That's what I'm looking at first and foremost.
Yeah, I think you need to create more chances. Only 5 in the match. No one created more than one chance out of the 2's players. You need more there. With as much match control as you had in the first half, you need to get something to show for it. And something we've seen, over the years with Atlanta United too, and I think it's just the case with young teams in general. You get that lead on the road, and they got it done, and they were able to ride it out. But you want it to be a little more comfortable than it was. It was a very frantic finish with OKC throwing everything forward. And hopefully what this will do is it'll build a little bit of confidence. So next time Atlanta United 2 is in the situation where they have a lead in the second half on the road, it's not as frantic. It's not as hectic towards the end. And it's a game that they can see out a little more comfortably. A couple other things from Tony Annan. He spoke after the match, and he said, I thought it was a tough match. Obviously, it's a smaller pitch, tough to play on. They're a very strong physical team, so it made it very difficult for us to play. But I thought we controlled the game, controlled possession. In the second half, they pressed a bit higher and made it a bit more difficult for us, but the guys, I thought, played very well. And about the first-team players who dropped in, he said, it's a tough thing when you have first-teamers drop into your team that you haven't trained with and you haven't been with. For them to come down and give the effort that they gave and the professionalism they played with and the passion they played with, it is really encouraging. Sometimes it's difficult for a first-teamer to come down and be motivated to play, but I think all of the guys from the first team came with a great attitude, great passion for the game, and helped the team get its first win of the season. That stuff becomes contagious. And when you get a Mateos Hosechu, when you get a Mikey Ambrose, when you get an Alex DeJohn, guys with a lot of professional experience, at various levels, but lots of minutes played as a professional. When, even little things like they can just have that pre-match conversation with somebody they're playing around, just to calm some nerves, just to, stress a coaching point that needs to be reinforced about, don't be afraid to play through some trouble. Don't be afraid to keep the ball in a tight spot. Don't be afraid to play me in a tight spot. I can, give me the ball in that spot. I can help. Like, those kinds of things are very important, and then it becomes a situation where, you've got the Ambroses, the DeJohns, the Hosechus, and then Will Riley can become that Hosechu later on because he's been in those situations. George Campbell can be that mentor for a young center back like Efrain Morales when they play next to one another. Mikey Ambrose can pass on that information to a Caleb Wiley down the line. It's a good situation to have, and I think Tony's dead on. When you get guys come in with the right attitude and they bring that to a young group, they can kind of give a lift. And I think that's what it looked like to me after a good performance in Louisville, but one where you didn't have a ton of control of the match, but good fight. This time you had the control. You did have the fight towards the end. It feels like building blocks, and we'll see in Game 3 out in OKC a couple of weeks from yesterday how it looks in that situation.
And one of the numbers that stuck out to me as well, and it comes from the pressure that we're used to seeing from Atlanta United. Here of the starters that went for Oklahoma City, a substantive amount into the second half. Here's their passing accuracy numbers: 72, 63, 71, 71, 79, 75, 85 was Vasiljevic. He was one of the highest ones on the board. Kuramoto at 75, Aiden Daniels at 86, and Jonathan Brown at 70. So those percentages, a good 10 to 15% lower than what we saw from Atlanta United and Atlanta United 2 in this match at Taft on a smaller surface. And the pressure, I think, especially in that first 35 minutes, kind of shows out in those numbers when it comes to the accuracy of what OKC was able to do in the first half.
Yeah, now some of that's the way OKC plays, and they're going to play long and play lower percentage balls in general. If they were doing that but then winning the duels, especially the aerial duels, OKC's fine with those numbers. But when you have to play long because of the pressure and then Alex DeJohn and George Campbell are eating everything up, then you don't really have a way to control the game and create dangerous chances outside of set pieces. And that's where OKC looked their most dangerous. And look, that's just something that the 2's are going to struggle with. They're a smaller team. They're a younger team. They're a less physical team. And you've got a lot of teams in the USL Championship that are built on direct size, strength, win the set pieces, win the physical battles. You've got a lot of teams that will make the 2's have to find different ways to be successful. Thought they were able to do that pretty well last night against OKC Energy.
Yeah, and your total numbers when it comes to the duels, you're looking at full-time 56-44 percentage-wise when it comes to winning the duels for Atlanta United. So, you mentioned all those numbers benefiting Atlanta United, but 56-44 for that, and then 60-40 on possession in the game on the weekend for Atlanta United. Both of those numbers benefiting the 2's there at Taft.
So next weekend, the 2's are off. The following weekend, they will be back at Taft to face OKC Energy. And then in the midweek, they will be at Kennesaw at Fifth Third Bank Stadium for the home opener. So one more game on the road before the 2's get to play in front of their own fans. We'll be back next weekend with another, or not next weekend, the weekend after, with another 2's review. We'll break down that second game of 2 separated by a week, which is really weird. Weird scheduling on this one, but you got to do what you got to do right now. We'll be back with a 2's review after that. If you have any questions in the meantime, you know where to find us at OSG Nelson, at Longshoe, and at Soccer Down here. We'll see you this week talking Atlanta United and more on the morning show, 9 a.m. on twitch.tv/Soccer Down here. And you can always check out the podcast on your own time. Much plot, y'all.
Much plot, y'all.